Winning your dynasty leagues is all about knowing how to play the market. And at this time of year, with rookie fever in full swing, there are some veterans out there available at cut price costs who can win you the league when you head into the 2025 season. If you'd bought a player like Derrick Henry last offseason, he barely would have cost you anything, but when you get into the season itself, he is suddenly a league-winning player, when people remember that actually it's about scoring points and not just building the youngest team possible. In this video, I'm going to run you through 6 players I think you can buy right now for a second-round pick who can go on to win you your leagues in 2025. Now, there's a little bit of risk to this, because obviously if it doesn't pay off, you are going to be left holding the bag with these players and they might retire on your teams. But if it pays off, this is someone who's going to propel you straight to that championship. If you enjoy this content, please consider liking and subscribing, but let's get into it with the first player. Alvin Kamara might be about to turn 29, but he is coming off an RB9 finish last season, where he finished with his highest ever rushing total and one of his highest ever target totals. In the last couple of seasons, he has seen over 80 targets at the running back position, which is the most in this stretch. Kamara is going to be playing in an offense with very few other weapons available, and a quarterback who is going to need a safety valve out of the backfield. And one of the most exciting things about him is they keep not really drafting anyone to replace him. The Saints targeted Devin Neal in the 6th round of the draft, and I really like Devin Neal, but he is obviously nowhere near the player that Kamara is at this point. Also, they targeted him in the 6th round, which means that they still plan on going into this season with Kamara as their lead back. The other backs on the roster are Kendre Miller, who has had a really bad start to his career, partially because of Dennis Allen, but it still seems likely that Kamara is going to go into this season as the lead back. And crucially, he has really showed no signs of slowing down. He's not struggled with injury for the past few seasons. He still looks the same player as ever. He does rely on volume a little bit more than some other running backs, just because the offense probably isn't as good, but if Alvin Kamara stays healthy in 2025, there is no way he sees less than 70 to 75 targets out of the backfield, and knowing Kamara, he can turn that into absolute gold. Kamara is probably available in your leagues right now for a second round pick in 2026 as people try to get out of holding running backs going into the next season. Kamara may be about to turn 30, but he still has more than enough left in the tank to win leagues for your team, and that's exactly the kind of player that you need to be buying. It's actually been a few down years for Matthew Stafford since exploding onto the scene in LA with that Super Bowl win and finishing at QB5. In the last 3 seasons, he's finished at QB32 in that awful season following the Super Bowl, QB15 and QB19 last year. So why am I recommending you to go and buy him? Well, we know that the Rams have made huge improvements to the offense this last offseason. First of all, solidifying the offensive line by bringing back all of their starters and making a replacement at center by bringing back Coleman Shelton, who previously played with the Rams over that Super Bowl run. Then they went out and they signed Davante Adams, the best wide receiver available on the open market. Cooper Kupp had obviously been slowing down, so they have moved away from him, ultimately releasing him. And then they went and drafted Terrence Ferguson in the 2nd round of the draft. Matthew Stafford is a clear value opportunity right now, and it might be that he's still finished as a low-end QB2 for the last couple of seasons, although QB15 a couple of years ago is all right. The key thing is that in Superflex leagues, he is available for so cheap. And a starting quarterback is someone that you need to be buying, no matter of their age, no matter of where they're starting, because they are just so valuable. And Stafford is going to get more valuable as we head into the season with that reignited offensive cast around him, with the potential to then finish inside the top 12 for the first time since that Super Bowl run, and with that connection with Davante Adams. Stafford is obviously 37, so this is going to be a short-term investment. He's probably only going to spend 2 years at most left on the Rams, potentially only this next 2025 season, and then moves on. But even though he has had a litany of injuries over his career, is one of the toughest quarterbacks going, Stafford really isn't showing any signs of slowing down. The arm is still incredibly live. That high football IQ and that processing ability is unlike most quarterbacks in the league. He is available for so cheap because of the age, but Stafford clearly has a fair amount left in the tank. I had a look at my YouTube analytics the other day, and only 10% of my viewers are subscribed to this channel, which means that you guys need to get involved. Please consider liking and subscribing for further content from Fancy Pancake. I have so much planned for this off season, and you need to get along for the ride. Come on, just click that button. If you've watched any of my content before, you will have heard me talk about James Conner. James Conner has been one of my favourite veteran running backs to be adding for a very long time now. And if you did it a couple of years ago, you'll have been absolutely delighted. Even if you did it last offseason when I was telling people to do it, you'll have been delighted with the results. James Conner finished as the RB11, including multiple league-winning weeks, or week-winning weeks, if that's a phrase that you can use, until he was ultimately shut down in week 17 and then placed on IR to end the season. But the crucial thing for James Conner is that the Cardinals didn't add, well, really anything on offense. They added one guard, and aside from that, I think it was an entirely defensive draft. James Conner is turning 30 this offseason, and they do still have Trey Benson, who they drafted in the third round in the 2023 draft. But Benson really didn't show anything last season, really didn't show anything last season. And he was a player that I really liked going into the draft that year, but was probably one of the least efficient backs in the league. James Conner is going to be the bell cow in this offense until the wheels fall off. And yes, he has had his struggles with injury, but Conner has a clear chance to finish as a low-end RB1 if the Cardinals' offense can take a step forward, with Kyler Murray actually being fully healthy for a whole season. Conner is going to get so much volume, and he's available for so cheap because he's just turned 30 and because there's a little bit of stink around his name. But if you can buy him now for a late second going into 2026, he could clearly function as an RB2 for next season, and to be honest, with the contract he signed, potentially even the season after that. If I told you that there was a player who finished as the wide receiver 31 last season on an offense that we want to buy shares into, with an exciting young quarterback who was pretty much guaranteed to be the second target leader on his team, you'd be very interested in that player. So why is nobody talking about Darnell Mooney this offseason? It was a very up and down season last year, with Mooney either finishing as a top 15 wide receiver or outside the top 30. He was very boom bust, partially because he does work a little bit as the deep threat on this team. But Mooney finished with just under 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns. And the crucial thing is that the Falcons added nothing to their receiving core. It is still just Drake London, Bijan Robinson out of the backfield, Darnell Mooney, and then the ghost of Kyle Pitts, whatever he is at this point in time. We know that with this offense, again coming from the Rams tree, Michael Penix Jr. is going to want to spread the ball around, and there's only so much he can target Drake London. Darnell Mooney is the clear wide receiver 2 on this team, but because he disappointed after moving, he was on the Bears, had a good rookie season, and then other players came in, and then he did absolutely nothing when people tried to buy him then. Because he disappointed, the name value really isn't there. But Darnell Mooney is probably available for as little as a late second, maybe an early third in fantasy leagues right now, and he has a clear path to being the wide receiver 2 on a team with a quarterback that we all kind of are interested in. We kind of want a share of Michael Penix to see what he can be, because he did look exciting for those last couple of games of last season. Darnell Mooney is one of the easiest buy candidates in fantasy football right now, and for some reason, absolutely no one is talking about him. Chris Godwin is coming off one of the worst ankle injuries I have ever seen, and I say that as someone who's had 3 operations on a broken ankle over the last 10 years. His ankle got turned all the way round, but he should be healthy to play week 1. That's at least what he's saying. However, the team also drafted his replacement for the long term in Emeka Egbuka. So why am I saying that you need to trade for him now? Well, before he got injured last season, Chris Godwin's pace would have seen him finish as the wide receiver 4 last year, which is genuinely incredible. He was looking like a league-winning receiver and playing like that as well with that connection with Baker Mayfield. Now, obviously, drafting Emeka Egbuka seems to be the long-term replacement for Chris Godwin in the slot. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucks see him as the long-term replacer and not someone that's going to take a huge amount of his work in this next season. Chris Godwin has one of the best connections with Baker Mayfield around. That is something that they really just understand how to work together. And the slot role in this offense, they now have their next OC is coming over from the Rams. The slot role in this offense is someone that's always been able to feast. If Chris Godwin is healthy, he has league-winning potential. This one is probably one of the riskier selections, just because Chris Godwin could not be healthy, Egbuka could take his job, he could end up off the team next season. But he has the connection with Baker Mayfield and has shown that over the past few years to show that he has the potential to win you leagues this season. The final player that I think you need to be trading for right now is Evan Engram. And Engram is someone that has a little bit of stink around him as well, disappointing a little bit over the past few years, to be honest, over the majority of his career. But he played very well in Jacksonville and functioned as a decent starting tight end for fantasy football. He then, this offseason, landed himself in Denver, where we know the tight end usage with Sean Payton is always incredibly strong. Sean Payton spent the entire offseason saying he wanted to find his joker, and he did so with RJ Harvey in the second round of the draft. But RJ Harvey doesn't really bring anything to the receiving game in terms of as a full-time receiver. He is a good receiver, but he's not a full-time receiver. So the main addition that they made to their receiving core was Evan Engram. Engram isn't really a tight end. He is a big slot, and he is a good route runner and a good athlete. I think that they plan to make him the focal point of this offense. There's not really anyone in this offense who can be a huge target leader, a huge target receiver, or demander even. Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Devon Valley's there as well. They drafted Pat Bryant in the third round, which is probably a little bit too high. Engram is probably the best receiver on this team, and this is someone that we know is going to like to throw the ball as much as possible. I think Evan Engram could end up finishing as the top target leader in terms of tight ends, and he is available relatively cheap right now because there is just still that bad perception of his name. The Broncos made Engram the 10th highest paid tight end in the league this last season, and he has guaranteed money for the next 2 seasons. I think that Engram to Knicks connection is going to be league winning in 2025, and it's something that you need to get your hands on. That is going to do it for today. Let me know down below in the comments if there is a player that I mentioned that you absolutely love, or if there's someone that you absolutely hate. And while you're there, like the video, subscribe to the channel, do something else as well. Leave a second comment, compliment me on my mustache. I'd appreciate that as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.